instance SQL database. And here I have the subscription and the resource group just like before. I'm going to enter a database name for that. Now, of course, the database name needs to follow certain rules. You're going to be checked as you go, so it's going to be validated, all right? And then I'm going to select a server. At the moment, I don't have a SQL server, so I'm going to create a new one. And then later, remember that you could have multiple databases per server. The name needs to be unique, all right? So again, it is validated as you type. I'm going to add my initials in front. And then I'm going to enter a SQL Server admin login with username and password, all right? And eventually, I'm going to select the region for the server because, again, you have a choice here, and I'm going to put it in Western Europe so that it is close from my application service that I migrated in the previous session. Here I could select to use Elastic Pool if I wanted to, but here I can also scale up and scale down. And the good thing to know is that you can at any time scale up and scale down. Notice that you also have a hyperscale solution. If you have some really high volumes of data, you can use that. Now, once you migrate into hyperscale, you cannot migrate out of it. But you see that here I have a very cost-effective solution where I'm going to pay an estimated $15 per month. So for this small application, it's quite attractive. The networking, just want to show you that I'm going to configure no access at all for the moment. We'll talk about the firewall a little bit later. And here you have advanced data security that you can configure. We'll do that later. And I'll explain to you more about advanced data security just a little bit later. So here the deployment is in progress. Like always on Azure, it's taking a few minutes. Here we go a little bit faster. When the resource is available, we can go into the dashboard, all right? And as you can see, this is a database dashboard, not the server dashboard. This is really the database here. I have different connection streams, all right? ADO.NET, JDBC, ODBC, PHP. We talked about. Now this is an additional cost of $15 per server per month, all right? This is per server, not per database. And it's really good because for $15 you're going to have peace of mind. We are going to run some assessments on a regular basis, all right? And it's going to show you risk vulnerability. Immediately after creating the database, it says you should enable audit at the server level, which is probably a good advice. Now we are also going to run scans on your data. For example, if you have things like SQL injection or if you have unusual login activity, we are going to notify you. So that's really good to know. Let's go to the server now. Okay, this is the server which is hosting the database. At the moment, I just have one database here. And here I have the possibility to go and configure the firewall because right now it's totally blocked. Nobody can access this server. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow other Azure services and resources to access this server, meaning that if it's running on Azure on the same virtual network, it will have access to the server, which is the case of my web application. So that's good to know. All right, we can go back to the database. Let's go up. And now I want to show you that you can see the data directly in your web browser. You can, of course, use another tool like SQL Server Management Studio if you prefer. But one thing is that here I'm going to be denied access as expected because my client, which is really my laptop, that's the IP address of my laptop, doesn't go through the firewall. So let's go and add the client IP to the firewall rules. Okay, this is my current laptop IP. I'm going to save that. And then once this is saved, we are going to go back to the query editor and now we can log in. Of course, at this time, the database is empty. There are no tables because we didn't migrate yet. But basically, at this point, we are ready for the migration. So let's talk about the migration itself and let's talk about the Azure Database Migration Service. Now, this is a very powerful tool, very nice to use as well, very easy to use and convenient. And you're going to be able to migrate from different sources to different targets. For example, you see that we support SQL Server as a source running inside your premise or inside AWS. And then for the target, for SQL Server on-premise, we have Azure SQL DB, Azure SQL DB Managed Instance, or even Azure SQL running in a virtual machine, all right? For Oracle, we support a migration path to Azure Database for PostgreSQL, DB2 into SQL DB. Mongo